Of course, Ottawa is the only major city in Canada without a single bed or facility to assist in detox and rehabilitation from opioid addiction for youth 16 and under.
Yeah.
What will you do?
It's a crisis. More people are dying from opioid overdoses than traffic accidents now. We will be investing as I mentioned earlier, identifying the opioid crisis as a serious crisis and giving government the authority to create a central organization to coordinate responses. We need to address this. That's it for the moment.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Nimmer.
It's a problem that we have within our society and especially in Ottawa Vanier. And as I mentioned before, that we proposed $1.9 billion in mental health care and addictions. And that's gonna be dealing with the problems, and it's gonna be dealing with all kind we're gonna create like an environment that help the people that they are using that habit, which is very, very bad in the society. And at the same time, we are supporting we're supporting it to be a part, the rehabilitation center, to be a part of the hospitals, and a part of we have now the liberals proposed inside sites for needles. So we support that to be a part of the rehabilitation centers. We don't want it to be on the streets and to be attractive for all the people that they use that kind of opioids. Thank you.
Merci. Madame Delosier.
Yes, the question troubled me because I know that La Maison Fraternité offers some rehab and addiction center for kids, but maybe it's on the French side, so I stand to be corrected if indeed. But I agree, there's more to be done, and there's certainly more to be done on responding adequately to the opioid crisis, which has taken, I think, a scale that we could not have imagined a year ago. The strategy that has been put forward by the Ministry of Health in Ontario, which is the largest in Canada now, starts from prevention, increasing the level of public education that we give in high school and even in primary school. We also then move to having more front line workers trying to be there, reaching out to people, trying to instill within them a way of managing the risk, to then trying to save people and having more and more access to Naxalon and making it easier to actually save them, and obviously continue to invest more in mental health and addiction services. So I think there's no magic bullet, and that's a little bit what I want to say here, is that there's no magic bullet in trying to solve issues. You need to go at it with so many different ways, and you need to engage so many people in being part of the solution. So that's a little bit what we're trying to do here, is everybody in the healthcare system, in the education system, and in the governance system has a role to play in trying to resolve or actually minimize the opioid crisis.
Madam Evans.
So as of today, there are nearly a dozen ministries that deliver a patchwork of programs across Ontario, and the NDP is committed to creating one department of mental health and addictions. That means that there would be a one-stop point for people who are trying to begin to navigate this incredibly complex problem. So it's really important. I'm a harm reduction advocate. I have been for a very long time, and that means that acknowledging that people are going to end up using illicit substances, and we want to try and make sure that when they do, they don't die, because that means that someone loses a loved one, that means somebody loses a child. And it's really important that when we consider helping these people, we need to make sure that we minimize the pain in society. We minimize as few people dying as possible. And so when I talk about harm reduction, I talk about making sure that there is a safe injection site. I talk about making sure that there are places that people can take their drugs and make sure that what they're taking is what they think it is. Because so many of these overdoses happen because a drug dealer has spiked something that somebody is taking. They thought they were taking one thing, and they're taking another, and they're dying because they took far too much of the other thing. And so it's really important when we talk about harm reduction to make sure that there are places you can go to test the drugs that you think you're taking. Because it's really tragic when people die of overdoses. People lose family members for something that was completely preventable. And to ignore the intricate links between mental health and addiction would be folly. Because we need to recognize, like I said earlier, that most of the people in prison for low-level drug crimes, people who used a substance that was illegal and got caught, non-violent drug crimes, 2/3 of them were abused as children. We need to make sure we're helping those people. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we started with you on this topic, did we not?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. Madame Desrosiers has asked for an additional minute on this topic, and then over to you.
Okay.
Yes, actually, I just wanted to discuss a little bit because the idea of creating a ministry of mental health and addiction was something that we discussed a lot among different members, and I thought it would be interesting to maybe present a different point of view on this. Because we thought about it quite a bit to see whether that would help, and I think the conclusion was that probably creating another ministry would maybe actually undermine the commitment that we have to mental health. One of the issues is not to stigmatize mental health from ordinary health. So there's no health without mental health. It used to be is the model that we're using here, which is to say we need an integration of services and not separating addiction from health that goes on everywhere. So it's not a criticism, but it's a way of maybe thinking about whether that's the solution. There's no doubt in my mind that that doesn't mean that we need a one-stop shop, and that is exactly what's envisaged here.
Merci. Madame McLean, 1 minute.
Okay. So the Green position is that the government should establish more temporary overdose prevention sites where drug users can seek immediate help. As I mentioned, we want to declare a state of emergency, not only to help funds flow faster, but also provide focused, coordinated government leadership to combat the crisis. And we support increasing both government-sanctioned, supervised drug use sites and pop-up sites by the community. And further, we support creating a new umbrella organization called Mental Health and Addictions Ontario to consolidate and prioritize mental health and addictions programs and services consistently across Ontario.
Thank you. Madame Evans.
So right now, the reason we want to create this department is so that there will be people advocating for mental health needs all the time. We have seen over the past 14 years, people talk about mental health and addictions, and then around the election time, and then shortly thereafter, nothing happens for 3.5 years, and then all the promises come out again, and then nothing happens for 3.5 years. And we need to stop putting mental health and addictions on the back burner. The NDP commits to making sure that we don't forget about this, because as soon as this election is over, so many people stop paying attention, and so many people stop the advocacy that goes around elections. And I personally have been negatively impacted by the lack of mental health care and addictions in Ontario. And we need to make sure that we are helping people. And when we leave mental health care and addictions on the back burner, we're not helping people. You've removed people from the center of the equation. And that is something I've seen Liberals do far too often.
Merci.
Thank you.
Next question, how will your